Is Central Florida housing headed for a crash as interest rates tick high in mortgages cause buyers to run from the market? Cash buyers are dropping away in record numbers. Investors have left the equation altogether. Is home prices coming in the fall going to be very bad for Central Florida, or are we going to see continued growth? The entire nation awaits as the West has seen big price losses. We've seen some faltering in the Northeast. The Southeast somehow keeps making news with having their inventory stay tight and low and buyers complaining of affordability. But the headwinds are in Florida. We've seen all this local drama with the governor fighting with the Disney company. We have HOAs shooting their monthly cost to record levels. We're also seeing our taxes obviously much higher with elevated home values. And then on top of that, insurance. In many cases, people are getting notices this year that their insurance policies have tripled. People that have $3,000 to $4,000 a year policy going up to $12,000, $13,000, $14,000, crushing people. We're going to look at the data. I'm going to show you some key things throughout Central Florida that I'm keeping a close eye on. I'm going to make some quick analysis on where we are right now in 2023 and what you can expect in 2024 and some predictions of where this housing market's headed. As we dive into the data, dive below and smash the like button. And if you're not already following this channel, consider subscribing. But let's get into the data. And I will tell you up front, as I get into the market information here, this is all being done live. So if I cough, if I lose my train of thought, you folks are all going to see it as we go. But let's start with the beginning of this whole equation of what's causing the marketplace to move up and down, contract and expand. All of that is really driven by interest rates and buyer affordability. You can see right here that as we've ended last week, the 30-year fixed for folks with good credit is close to 7%. The 30-year FHA, which is what first-time home buyers, at least most of the FHA borrowers are first-time home buyers, they're getting close to 7% right now. And that obviously is not good for housing. You can see where we are. This is a trend going back to where the pandemic season was when we had interest rates around 3%. And you can see that last fall they spiked high, drove prices down. Throughout Florida, much of Florida saw declines down to 9 to 11%, and then as the start of this year happened, January, February, March, the market went right back on fire as interest rates fell in the low 6% range. FHA, as you can see, early part of this year fell into the 5% range. Folks were locking in at 5.75, stuff like that. That kept the market alive. But we're seeing something interesting, folks. This is something that you need to know about going into the fall, is the rates are starting to stick high. Meaning they were most of this year bumping in and out of the 7% range and coming back down. It seems that we're now most likely going to see a sustained high interest rate due to the fact that the market for all of this time has been hopeful that the Federal Reserve is done raising rates. And I believe that a lot of the economy, Wall Street particularly, bullishness there has impacted interest rates. It's impacted the bond market, which impacts interest rates. I do not think we have, and again, this is a prediction. Predictions from me, I think interest rates are going higher, and I think they're going to stay higher for a more sustained period of time. And this season of the marketplace right here that you see coming out of last summer all the way up, where interest rates rose into Christmas, it absolutely was not good for the market. So high interest rates are not good for sellers, not good for home prices, even in Florida. And while at the beginning of this year, these low rates rather, gained price. So the 8, 9, 10%, depending on where you were in Florida, the price loss that you experienced came back through the beginning of this year. Well, we're going to see that in the face of the marketplace where it is right now, the marketplace going into summer should be trading very rapidly. This is where people see year over year gains, where the seller's making equity when they're getting out of the house because of the tightness of this season. You're seeing markets flat. Like, we're not making money at the peak because of the push on rates, how the fact that pendings fell off, buyers were not putting homes under contract to the same degree, and all that's having an effect on housing. Let's look at some graphs that I want to show you that actually are very valuable in analyzing where the market is going from a possibly a foreclosure standpoint. These are, this is a trouble spot map. Okay. So this is a map provided by a company that I subscribe to, Reventure Consulting. This is data on the percentage of loans in these different counties throughout Central Florida that have high FHA loans, second homes, investment loans, things of that nature in these marketplaces. So they're basically what's called foreclosure risk. High chance that in recession, in job loss, these would result in a loss of a house going to market, inventory spikes. So you can see particularly Osceola County is leading the entire Central Florida marketplace at 56%. High FHA activity here, probably some second home purchasing as well. FHA, folks, represents the highest default rate for a loan type in the country. Okay, they are much higher. To give you an idea, FHA default rate right now is probably somewhere around 5%, which is not good. That's a lot of loans that could potentially go into trouble and be on the market. And then obviously, these high density areas that have a lot of them could become problematic. To give you an idea, an equivalent to that, a conventional loan, normal 10, 20% down type, actually you can get a conventional 5% down, but a conventional type loan, non-FHA, there's less than 1%. So you have a 500% increase in default rates in FHA, which is troubling. It's a growing number right now as well. So you can see that about 3 out of 10 in Orange County are an FHA, second home type purchase. Seminole's very low, lowest in the area, 33% in Lake County as well. So just to give you folks something to look at in the Space Coast, you're about 33% out there. So this is a graph that just kind of gives you an idea of risk. Where's the risk? Second homes are risky, right? If I am going to be in trouble and I live in Nebraska, I may not keep my house in Florida. And if there's a lot of those types of situations, you're going to have problems. This is the buy versus rent calculator, folks. This is your rent line down here, and this is the cost to own a home. And you can see there's a pretty wide gap. This is flipped. So anytime there's inversion, this will correct in time. So the thing is, this cost to own part is going to be affected by either prices coming down or interest rates coming down, or possibly both. And then this line will return where it was. The thing is, I believe, prediction, next year to 2 years, you're going to see the rent line settling a little bit. Now, it may not come all the way back down to $1,500 a month average for the Orlando metro area. By the way, this is not Orlando, the city that you're seeing on these graphs. This is the Orlando, what's called metro statistical area. It's the entire Seminole, Orange, Lake, Osceola, parts of Volusia. It's a massive area, okay? So this is a big sample size you're looking at. You can see that the history of this marketplace has rents a little higher than ownership. That's a healthy economy, normal economy. Investors don't buy homes where the cost of the home is $2,500 a month, but they can only rent it for $2,000 a month. People that are renting homes or are currently in a rental situation want to come out and buy when they're going to save money to purchase the home. Right now, that's flipped. That makes buying untenable. Okay, that makes buying only available for the committed. You can see that also a person renting right now saves 20% by renting over ownership. Not good, and that's a predictor of the future. Now, let's take a look at this particular graph. This is a crash, another risk-based assessment for the marketplace. Now, this is a very valuable graph because this shows you the ratio of earnings. So there's Bureau of Labor Statistic data in here for the marketplace of Orlando, Florida, metro, combined with housing values. So if you take a look at the most recent, let's go to the peak. Up here when houses was September 30, according to this graph, was peak in the ratio, not peak of home values. Home values are probably higher in a different month. But September of last year, the ratio of what you paid for a house, according to Zillow on average, $388,000, and what your annual earnings were, according to BLS, Bureau of Labor and Statistics, the ratio combined of those two, so how much earnings you needed, was 7.8 times earnings to buy the house, okay? Now, this is a valuable graph because I can tell you this, I look at this graph metro after metro. And if you go back to the last time housing corrected, you can set a watch to it that this market became untenable at nearly the same ratio, okay? Everybody that wants to believe this marketplace is different, Most folks that believe that have never ever looked at the economics. The economics aren't different at all. Bubble to bubble, the economics are similar. Look, 7.7 was the last. And look at the home value. You say, everything's different. Like interest rates are lower. No, there was less money being borrowed on the average. Zillow's average for a home value back then was 264.56 versus annual earnings of 33,999. The multiplier was 7.7. We know that this market's typical comfort level, it's live, folks. It's going to buffer, and it's going to give me Austin, Texas, which is obviously not what I want to look at. But you can see that a marketplace is going to have its own natural average, and the market's going to seek the average. So the average is always good to watch. Because you can see right now we are 31% over the mark. Okay, we were 35% or something like that back here. So the actual home prices as they change, incomes as they change, it's going to affect this graph. Now, the Federal Reserve, rather, not central bank, same thing. Federal Reserve is saying that they are expecting a recession to anchor, deeper recession, higher unemployment by the end of this year, which means in all likelihood, earnings will not go up for a season. They're going to go down. Okay. So for this to correct, you're going to see more of a shift in home prices in all likelihood. Okay. Take a look at this unemployment by metro area. Okay. So this is a very important graph. You can set, you can learn a lot from this graph because unemployment does different things after it hits lows. Right? We're at the low. We have like a record low unemployment for the entire nation. Most states around our country do not have a 2.6% unemployment rate like the state of Florida does. By the way, the average, which is important because when you're below the average, that means there's an overcorrection. Okay. So that means employment is not typically, you don't typically see 2.6% unemployment in this market. The typical for 30 years is 5.3%. So we're overemployed. Okay. We have employment so tight, and it's really not overemployment. It's the tension is high. When 10 people are lining up for the same job, or I should say it's a reverse right now. It's you have 10 jobs and one employee for all 10, and the employers are raising their wages and paying Chipotle workers $18 an hour or whatever it is to make rice bowls because there's so many people that are basically they can control where they work. Like I will work where I want to work and 10 employers want me for one job. Things are too tight, right? You can see in history of the Florida market, look, it doesn't sustain that. Look what happens after it bottoms. It bottomed 2.3 last time, shot way up to 10. I should say last time. It bottomed in 2019 to 2020 at 2.7. Look at conveniently, there was a massive pandemic right here, which honestly coming into 2020, I thought things were super eerie. Like I was like, what is going on? Like something's happening. In the economic side of things, I thought we were facing a bubble right here when this was going on. I was like, something's going to happen. We're going to adjust the other direction anytime soon because you can set a clock to it. Right here, look, this was the last recession towards the end of 2000. The dot-com bubble, 2000 right here. Look at this. Bottoms out at 2 something, shoots up to 5. And by the way, when this happens, okay, when this happens, the Fed adjusts the rates. And so everything is like everybody says this time it's different. This time it's different. None of it's different. It's identical. Let me show you what I mean. Okay? Because you got to understand when this happens right here, home prices shoot through the floor. They go down. When this happens right here and you go down to 2.6 unemployment, home prices shoot through the roof. Okay? It's all a common narrative. Now let's talk about cause. Because everybody's focused on one thing. Oh, we don't have 100% financing anymore and people aren't getting risky loans. Baloney. There's plenty of loans that you can get right now that 97% financed. You can get loans and and be super debt ridden. So much so that if one little thing goes wrong in your life, you lose your property and everything else. There's FHA borrowers right now that are getting 57% of their debt ratios in monthly expenses. What I'm saying, folks, is that people can get loans so large that they have very little left. And if gas goes up, they're screwed. If food costs goes up even higher, they're screwed. If their insurance company calls them and says, hey, surprise, you're now paying $300 more a month, they're screwed. Okay? A lot of that. But this is the point I'm talking about. This, when your unemployment went down here, the feds jacked the rates up. Then it drove unemployment up. Then in 2001, Greenspan jacked the rates up, or he brought them back down. He's like, 2001, Twin Towers fell. Recession, cuts the rates down to 1%, which is so low, like we'd never seen anything like that. Guess what happened next? All the way through 2004, the rates are at really low numbers, and the market goes, so unemployment goes through the floor, and then the housing market goes through the roof. So everybody's thinking that the market got hot because everybody was getting risky loans. No. The market got hot because everybody's employed. There's a lot of funny money in the market from central bankers. And then afterwards, guess what happens down here? Greenspan goes, it's 2005. Things are spiraling out of control. Everything's getting too expensive. You know what he did? He jacked rates up to 5% at the central bank level. And then what happened? Boom, there was collapses. There's financial calamity. There's banks going under. Guess what happened right here? Right now, as we're coming down this little hill and unemployment's going to record low numbers, you know what they did? They jacked the interest rates up to guess where? 5%. Right what they did back here. Okay? None of this is a surprise, folks. The point I'm making and what you need to be aware of as a Central Florida or person looking at the market for investment or whatever else is this right here. We know that this is the average. We know this is the average during unemployment or during recession, what unemployment goes to. So 2.6% could become 8% in about 6 months' time, okay? In a bad marketplace. Now, we also know the labor force size is 1.46 million people. So if we lose 120,000 jobs, statistically, 80,000 people in that pile have houses, okay? In just the metro area of Orlando. And Orlando only manages to have 8,000 homes on it at a time. 9,000 homes is kind of like our average. So if we see the marketplace end up with, some economic challenge, you could easily see 20, 30, this is exactly what happened last time. 20, 30,000 homes hit the market because 20, 30,000 people couldn't support, the cost of ownership. All of a sudden, while buyer demand was low, meaning there wasn't people there to absorb those houses as people were throwing the keys and leaving the houses and put them on the market. And here we go. All right, folks, let's move on. Home building permits. This right here is a future indicator of where we are going to see inventory in the Central Florida marketplace. Okay, now don't focus too much on the orange line. Let me describe what these are. The bottom line right here is condos and multifamily. Okay, that's a condominium or a 5+ unit multi-property. So it's like a building with apartments, 8, 10, 12, 40 units in a building. Okay, that's what this line represents. Each of these permits is multi. This is single. Okay, so this is single family homes or single family permits. By the way, single family is 1 unit, 1 house, a duplex, which is 2 units combined in the middle, a triplex, and then a quad or fourplex. So single family permits include 1 to 4 units. Okay, down here is 5+ as well as the condos. Now this orange line, the reason why I'm less interested in it is because it's adding these two together. It's your multis plus your single. But here's the deal, folks. You can see right here, when we overheated the market last time and there was a glut all of a sudden, this is where we went. We peaked here. I look at Tampa, I look at Jax. Most of these marketplaces, they do not see total permit volume hanging with the last time. So that is something to watch. One thing I want to call your attention to is look where the permits are coming from. Last time, it came from single family. There weren't a lot of apartment buildings being blown up everywhere. This time, there is a lot of multi-unit being built right now, folks. A lot, okay? So in our marketplace, many of you might have driven around. You might have driven through Winter Garden. You might have driven through anywhere, any side of the of town, and you're like looking around and you're going, man, there's colonies of massive buildings. There's a lot more multifamily in this flat state with plenty of land that should have a lot of houses for people to choose from. And what you see here is the single family is being developed less than last cycle, and multifamily had a lot of production and still coming. Okay, these take time to build. They're bigger projects. They take 2 years. So in the next year or two, this is something to watch if you're investing in income property. The multifamily marketplace in the area that surrounds you, because there could be a lot more units surfacing. Okay, so something to watch. Let's jump into county by county. I want to show you some things here, and then we will wrap this video up. Home value growth. This is the marketplace across the counties. Now, I can't really show you a table because it's going to have the entire state. But you can see here that year over year, Lake County is up 4.3, Orange County is 3.9, Osceola is 5.5, Polk County is 3.5, and Seminole is 4.6. So relatively low, relatively flat. Okay, it's definitely not the 20-30% that we've seen over the past couple of years. So you can see that the marketplace is shifting a little bit, which is kind of nice, to more what we're after. Okay, the reason why I want to show you that, I don't necessarily think we're going to sit at that spot. Okay, I think we're hanging out at those lower reduced numbers, but we're not going to stay there. We're either going to go up from there, or we're going to drop down and possibly be flirting with flat or go below that. This is your inventory growth. Okay, this is something to watch. Okay, notice the marketplace with the risky loans is now up 202%. Osceola has a big jump. Look at both markets with the higher riskier loans. Look at their inventory over last year. Polk's pushing 200%. Osceola's over it. Orange County is still tight. 69% is not a big number over last year. Last year was historically low, so when you're only 69% above it, it's still tight. Orlando's tight. Seminole County is 54%, and Lake County is 127%. Brevard, if you guys are watching, 155% on the Space Coast. But this is these are big numbers, folks. Osceola, I'm going to tell you right now, if you're planning to sell a home in Osceola County, don't wait. And again, don't take my advice. This is an opinion. Don't hinge your life and everything you ever make. I'm not guaranteeing losses or gains, but that isn't a good trend. And if you look closely at some of the marketplace in Osceola, particularly southeast edge, there is a lot. Like you're talking St. Cloud, Harmony, and then the east edge of Lake Toho up Narcoossee Road, all that. High numbers of growth. Kissimmee starting to grow. Poinciana starting to grow out in Polk as well. So south side is starting to see inventory. I'm going to show you some things too here in a second. Specific zip codes that I think you're going to appreciate before we end this video. Price cuts. Where are the price cuts coming from? Obviously, they're not coming from Orange. It's why it's blue. It's nothing happening there. Seminole, same thing, holding tight. Osceola, your sellers are just not on page. Osceola should have higher price cuts, but they're just lack of professionalism. Agents not telling sellers, hey, your price is off. You're not, it could be that everybody knows the market's shifting there and they're pricing hot right off the bat, right on the numbers, but I don't think that's happening, because if they were, you wouldn't be sitting on 200% inventory growth. And again, it's not everywhere in Osceola, but there's some markets in Osceola that have 300-400% year-over-year price growth or inventory growth. A lot more homes for sale. Lake County is going towards 1 in 4 listings seeing a price cut in order to sell. So Lake County is starting to see some inventory growth, starting to affect their market. I think Polk is behind too. A lot of areas of Polk, people aren't price reducing fast enough to get out of those markets. It's just you're not seeing it. You're going to see it soon because everybody's going to have a 6-month listing. But you're just going to see those people getting on board later. Let me show you where there's hot spots of inventory issues. I'm going to flip this graph to zip codes, and we're going to look at Orlando. It's going to take a second here to cycle over, just because that's the way this graph is functioning, and I got a lot of things open, so just bear with me. But one of the things I'm going to share with you right now is what marketplaces that see inventory climb the fastest are the ones that are likely to see challenges in the market. It's like, oh man, there's 3 homes on every street for sale. That's the beginning of the end for most markets. You don't want to see that. But let me show you an overlay. Okay, this is year over year. And this is the MSA, by the way. So you say, Jared, what's a metro statistical area for Orlando? What does it look like? It looks like a huge section across the middle of the state, which all this down here is Osceola, Seminole, part of Volusia up here. You got Apopka over here, and really Metro Orlando, like downtown Orlando, if you will, the major city function is right here. What do you see when you look at this graph, right? You see year over year that most of the inner city area is still tight, okay? Most of the inner city does not have a huge supply of inventory, okay? There are some spots that you're gonna see that are hot in that area. I'm gonna show them to you. But you see a lot of the outer areas went way hot and now they're cooling, okay? So when you see all this red out here, this is St. Cloud blowing up with inventory. You see this red out here, it's Poinciana blowing up with inventory. You see this red out here, Groveland stacking up inventory. You see up here above Mineola. Mineola's not, I don't think, but like the areas around it. Some of these outlying areas are seeing it, but like, let me zoom in. Let me zoom in and just pull some honorable mentions that are downtown. You can see north of Orlando, 32701 is up 127. Anything that's 100 to 125% over last year is not really crazy. 140, 150, you're starting to drift in all likelihood. It depends on how much, some of these zip codes were super low. Like right here, you have 155% in Maitland. Maitland it didn't have much last year, had nothing. So even 155% is not crazy in Maitland, but it's moving. It's showing you where it's going. It's growing in inventory during moving season, okay? 822, 132% down here in the southeast. 829 is going up. And then look at Lake Nona. Look at Lake Nona, Waterford Lakes, all this. 32832, maybe not Waterford Lakes, but definitely Lake Nona. Lake Nona areas here and here, 32827, it's up 238%. Got some high-end luxury there. It's probably not selling as fast. 711's been climbing for a long time, and folks here aren't reducing prices. I think sometimes you see people they take a while to figure out what's going on. Look at Harmony, 444%, and Harmony's already flat and dropping in price. Depends on the month you watch. So not that it will be next month, it could be up. I don't know. But I'm telling you folks, if you got a plan to sell in some of these areas, you may not get a better time than now. That's all I'm going to say. All right. Let's look at one more. I want to look at price reductions. If there's any, most people in Orlando, I think get a sense that the marketplace is kind of warm. So you're not seeing high price reduction. High price reduction is anything I would say over 1 out of 4. So when you're over 25% on this graph, that's when you're like, wow, people are negotiating in this area. But you can see historically, like most of this graph is under 25%, which is low. Things are staying tight, but some of the markets that should be reducing, they're just not. You got Poinciana down here at 21%. Look at Harmony. Harmony's up 444%. Their price structures are 23%. So they're getting close to 1 and 4. Look at 13% price reductions in 34711. Because people there are just sitting there thinking like, oh, the glory days will be back next month. I just need to wait and be patient. You never know. Not that, again, the Fed could come out tomorrow and bring rates to 0 again. We're going to go up another 100%, guys. We're going to double. Don't worry. But that's the update. Wanted to kind of bring you up to speed on the entire Orlando metro area. Some key data points that I like to watch. I am going to go ahead and start doing some county by county information. So stay tuned if you are looking, particularly in the Central Florida marketplace. I owe a Fort Myers Cape Coral update. I'm going to try to get that out tomorrow or in the next couple of days. I do want to come back to this marketplace though and do a deep dive county by county. So if you're in Osceola, if you're in Lake, if you want to see a very clear, tight end view, plus a lot more demographic data, I've got another update. Let me show you one more graph. Check this out. This is the last thing I'm going to show you. Let me zoom into the Orlando metro area. This shows you how many cash buyers we have. This is actually a really neat graph. It's got a bunch of stuff beyond that. But we're looking at single family home activity. Look at this, folks. Now, one of the graphs I want you to see here, we're looking at the first line up here, closed sales down 18%. So our closings are down. This is like, a lot of this is news right now, 19% over last year. Now, the headline is, well, Jared, there's no inventory. We don't have any homes to sell. That's why we're down from 2022. Well, that's funny. If you go down here to active inventory, look what it is. Okay, our sales are down 20% and we don't have inventory, but we have 71% more inventory than last year, yet our sales are down. By the way, here's pendings, folks. So pending inventory right here, tells us how the next month is going to look. This is a future indicator. How is it? We're in moving season. We're down 9% year over year. Now, are we chasing big numbers from last year? Could be. 2022. Maybe it was this epic April last year. I was busy. But every year in April, it's busy. But we're down this year. Look at this, folks. Cash sales down 44%. Volume, total number of money moved in the marketplace last month, year over year. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot of numbers, a lot of math, a lot of sales that aren't taking place. Look at median and average price for the entire MSA. Okay, this is a different data point. This, by the way, this is behind a realtor paywall. This is data that you cannot get on Redfin or anywhere else. This is available to realtors. Those of you realtors watching, you get this on the Florida Association website. Really good data dump because they're pulling from all of our MLSs, all the data that you're seeing trade in the market. So our average price is nearly flat, 1.1 year over year. The median is dead flat to last year. Okay, in moving season. So yet to be seen. It's gonna be an interesting fall, folks. Predictions. I think we are going to have recession deepening into the winter season, or high interest rates, or both, and they're both bad for real estate. So I think we're going to see another fall that's going to be soft through the state of Florida. I think there's a chance we gain some ground coming into 2024. But again, all bets are off because our economy doesn't necessarily follow, and our leadership and our banking system, they do weird things. So they could bail us all out tomorrow. And if that takes place, then none of these things matter, right? Like if we don't like let inflation become worked out and lower prices, they give up on that fight, then things will shift. If things are going on the track they're heading on, okay? So as things look now, just looking at the economics where they are now, fall is going to see some price loss in Florida, okay? So I hate to say that. I'm not, again, regardless of the thumbnail, my goal isn't to say, oh, it's going to crash. My goal is to just get a thumbnail that looks interesting so you actually look at data. But again, we got some great updates coming up. If you appreciate the content, smash the like button. If you like real estate content and want to know what's going on in Florida, I cover a lot of this state. Please subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk to you on the next one.